This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's Sweetheart, Davian. And
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
Hi, this is Kat Von Heez, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today. Entering all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox. Sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I am, of course, your host, James J., alongside Scooter Dust.
There was something funny about that NyQuil chicken I had for dinner.
And it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with Kat Von Heez.
Hey, everybody.
How are you, Kat?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Well, good. Could you tell us what you got coming up next?
Busy month, so I think we've got Can-Am Wrestling both in Calgary and Okotoks coming up at the end of Calgary on the 19th and the 21st. And then I have, I believe, 3 dates in Winnipeg for UCW and a few more for RCW in Edmonton and Calgary and Radway in Alberta. So about outside of the shows for the rest of this month, I think I have about 10 shows in October, so I've been pretty steady.
Wow, keeping busy.
Yeah.
Considering how light the schedule was the prior 2 years.
Oh yeah, it's been kicked up a notch. I mean, I remember kind of breaking in, and I started with CNWA and CWE and stuff, and the schedules were aggressive at the beginning of my career, and then it kind of slowed down a little bit. Like the scene was, once or twice a month locally, and then you have to kind of look elsewhere. But ever since things have kind of reopened up here, it's been there's been new companies, and like fans are coming out in large groups. So it's really nice to see that the market's kind of shifted for there to be more work for current talent.
Yeah, and that being said, you did recently win the inaugural WRSA Women's Championship.
Yes, I did.
What did that mean to you to win that title and being the first to hold that title?
It's always an honor when you get the opportunity to like represent the first opening of a division for a company. I've had the honor of being the first for a couple companies in my career, and it always just it means a lot that there's that opportunity. The promoters and the fans and everything put a lot of steam behind you, and they believe in you and stuff. So it was really exciting, and it was a match that I was looking forward to because my opponent, Rhea Von Slasher, is definitely a force to be reckoned with, and she's phenomenal. She's been wrestling for I think 19 years pro, and she and I only got to lock up one time before that 9 years prior. So it's been a match that I've been wanting to make happen for almost 9 years, but it's I'm glad we got to do that together.
That's crazy, 9 years.
Yeah.
In the making. What did you feel was different from that encounter to this encounter? Because obviously, a lot has changed.
Yeah, like 9 years earlier, I was still figuring out my bearings and stuff, and she was a great leader for me then too. Like she really helped me get through the matches and kind of drive the ship per se. But back then I was a little less confident in what I was doing and figuring out who I was as a wrestler and a performer. This time I have my own character. Her character has developed over the years as well, and both of our wrestling styles have evolved and changed throughout the years. So it was just nice to kind of come full circle and show her what I've learned in the 9 years and see how she's grown in 9 years. And I mean, the thing that didn't change is we were both hard hitting as we usually are. So we always have a bit of a brawl in there, which I've always loved to do with some of the girls that I've worked with.
All right. Squiddo, you have a question.
Yes. Now, if Bret Hart is a name synonymous with pro wrestling in Canada that's the most well known, then I would say one of the most not well known names synonymous with pro wrestling in Canada is Tony Condello. Now, my day job is writing closed captions, and a number of months back, his documentary, The Promoter, came across my desk.
Okay.
The question is, you've worked quite a few Tony Condello tours. Can you tell us about those death tours, and what did you have a relationship with Tony? What was that like? And if possible, can you give us your best impression?
Oh boy. I'm not as good at the impressions as some of the other guys are, but yeah, I mean, it was, so I broke in, I started going to the shows like early 2009, and then I really wanted to be involved, but there wasn't any school, so I was kind of looking abroad for schools. But in 2011, the CW Wrestling Academy opened up, and sadly it had temporarily shut down around December, so I was looking for something to kind of keep fresh, and I Vance, Nevada at the Comic-Con just prior to that, and he had offered me an opportunity to work on the Tony Northern tour. So I was really new. I hadn't had like any official matches yet, so I got to break in on a Northern Death tour with Tony.
Wow.
So that was my first experience like touring, and if that's basically the epitome of just like throwing someone in there and just seeing if they're going to sink or swim, because it's, you don't know anybody, you're sleeping on gym mats on the floors, and you're waking up at the crack of dawn, loading up your stuff, driving to the next place, and you can only go 20 kilometers an hour down these really bumpy ice roads or driving across frozen lakes. And then you sit around, wait for a while, and then you unpack everything, set up the ring, do the show. And it's like, it makes for a long day, but you start to develop like a wrestling family after a while. Like it's cool because you get really close with certain people. You build a bond with the crew. And Tony is one of those guys that he's a promoter, but he's just very much one of the boys. So you can joke around with him, you can like rib him and he'll rib you back. And he genuinely just loves wrestling, and he's provided a platform for so many wrestlers to become successful, and he's played a hand in a lot of those early 90s, late 90s wrestlers and stuff like that to have somewhere to go and a platform to start, and then, you know, get signed later on, like Edge and Christian. Jericho worked those tours. Well, Jericho, from what I understand, never did a winter one. He did Tony's summer tours. And then Lance Storm and all those guys.
And you bring up Edge, and the story one of the stories he tells in The Promoter is, I'm not sure if he was working the match, but Tony was the ref.
Oh yeah.
and they end up pantsing him.
Yeah.
And they don't let go of his pants.
Yeah. I think it was this, I think that might still actually be the story where they put
that icy hot.
Icy hot, yeah. And like Tony just like, he has like an impression. See, the funny thing about Tony is a lot of it sounds like him impersonating Stu Hart. So it just eventually became Tony's voice. But his thing is just like idiot after everything. Yeah. So he even spells it when he's messaging you. So it's a good. He's one of my closest friends. I actually talked to him like a couple days ago, and I'll be hopefully working with him at the end of the month. he's still promoting, and he genuinely loves it. He likes to run towns, like especially ones that people don't go to very often, and bring wrestling to places where, like, honestly, people haven't seen it in like 20, 30 years unless they've driven into the cities. But yeah, those tours are, you work like, back in the day it was, 6-8 weeks long. Now they're about 2 to 3 weeks long. And usually as a girl, most of the time you end up working 2 matches a night. You do like your singles match, and you'll usually do a mixed tag or something along those lines as well. So usually, like, in 10 days, you'll have 20 matches. And so you kind of have the chance to develop and, try stuff out, see how it's going to go, and learn really quickly from those that are sharing the ring with you out there.
And that is absolutely incredible, because we've had a number of wrestlers from Canada on Wrestling With, and I'll usually ask about Tony Condello, and the 2 answers I'll usually get is no or who.
Yeah.
And I am, and ever since I captioned his documentary, I've been so wanting to get somebody who knew him, and I love that story.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's always crazy to think that certain Canadian wrestlers, especially nowadays, don't know who he is, because he's still active. I don't know if you've seen the book Uncontrolled Chaos that came out recently from Vance, Nevada.
Yes.
Tony has the longest in-ring wrestling career of any Canadian, because he's actually had a match up in every year until this point. So, just the fact that he's been around for basically 50 plus years. He's run territories. He was with AWA. He's done so much with wrestling. So, like, it's just a part of history, I think, as a Canadian, that you should at least kind of try to learn about, even if you didn't get the chance to go on the tour.
So, Canadian Mount Rushmore of wrestling, he's definitely on there.
Definitely, 100%, yeah. Especially when it comes to promoters and territories, I'd say for sure, Stu, him, and Emile Dupree, Michelle Starr. Like, those are some really big promoters that have run some really big territories and companies that have lasted such a long time and been successful, and a lot of platform for a lot of those, like, late 90s, early 2000s guys to, like, catapult their careers to where they are today.
All right. James.
Yes. You wrestled Tessa Blanchard 14 days straight.
Yeah, I think 15 actually. Yeah.
15. Okay, I missed one though.
Including the tag match.
What's your headspace wrestling the same person for 2 weeks straight?
So Tessa was really green at the time, so I think she had only been around for about a year. The thing as a Canadian female, especially out west or in the prairies, or even in the Maritimes, essentially, there's very few of us, especially back then. So you usually end up working the same girl for months, if not years. So if you look at almost any female, like Natalia, even if you look at her early career, she would have wrestled the same women for like months straight in every part of the territory. So it's very normal for the girls in Canada to be like to do that. The positive is you can really build a sense of like trust, as well as what your limitations are. You learn how to develop with that person. You learn how to counter a lot of their moveset and vice versa. So it really makes for, it sometimes starts out really simple and really basic. So you get a feel of your opponent. And by the end of the 15 days, you have a really good sense of what they do and what you can do to counter it, or what you can do to enhance the sequence. And so that definitely happened with Tessa. I feel like we had some good chemistry at the beginning, but once we really got to the middle of the tour, we made it more submission oriented, and it really drove the story, and people really got behind it. And we were in, I believe, Truro, Nova Scotia, and a lot of the guys locally that are like Gary Williams and stuff, he was like, that was one of the best girls matches I've seen here in years. So it was really exciting to get that compliment, just because we, after, even 5 days in a row, you really start to have these, like, you guys click. You just start to know what each other do and how to counter it, and it becomes really interesting. So I don't mind it, but yeah, it would be nice to wrestle different people. Sometimes I find that's the difference between Canada and the US, is that in the US you don't work the same person all the time, like almost ever. And in Canada, it's basically the opposite of that all the time.
Well, it is interesting. Is that still the case? Because I feel like Canada has some great women right now, and some are like really established, and there's a few that are coming up as well.
Yeah, it's still like within the territories. I mean, you don't maybe wrestle the same girl every night, but like definitely in Alberta, I've wrestled every girl in Alberta here like countless times. BC, like, again, I think every province just ends up having, like, it sticks to your province more or less. Now, when you travel out of province, you'll wrestle someone different, but that's just a little bit more of a newer thing in the last year or so. But before that, it was very much, if you're working, Edmonton, Calgary, Lethbridge, Red Deer, it would be, usually the same girls all the time, and it's fun, but at the same time, yeah, kind of you want to get those different girls. And so now that there's sometimes easier to travel with like Swoop Airlines and stuff, it's a little bit easier to get people for one-off shows and stuff. So hopefully, like, again, it's not like territories, and it's getting better and better because there are more girls to work, but it's still not as much as the guys would get.
Okay, Scooter, you have a question.
Yes. Now, in my research prepping for this, if I had to sum you up in one word, it would be resilient. You endured not one, not two, but 3 vehicular accidents. And as someone whose career was cut short by the same thing, what was going through your mind, especially considering you recovered fully, no plates, no screws, or anything?
Yeah. I mean, I always found in those moments, like I used to think that if I ever had like those near death moments or things that could have gone really, really poorly, that I would, you'd think about something really important. I just remember the first time I was hit by a minivan on my bike. I was hit at the hip, and like I kind of went under the front of the van a little bit. I didn't go under the wheel. It wasn't that far in. It was just because they had stopped immediately. But the only thing I thought of was, because the handlebar hit me in the throat, was that I wouldn't be able to sing at my aunt's wedding. I didn't think about anything else at the time. But I mean, like, later on, it comes to your mind where like, oh, this could have been so much worse. Like, I could not be walking. I could be paralyzed. And even when I was hit with I had a semi accident in 2013, I think. I was driving home from work, and I got T-boned by not T-boned, I guess front end. It was hit by, on the side of my front end, I was hit by a semi. And again, one of those things where like I was concussed. I smacked my head on the window, and again, it's one of those situations that could have been far worse. I was more concerned with the ambulance bill in that particular moment. I was like, I kept telling the paramedics that wanted to check me out, I was like, what are you going to charge me? And I kept repeating that, like, I was just so out of it. I think you think about it more later when you're like, I'm okay. Like, it's crazy because there's so many people that get into like a minor fender bender that are like have permanent nerve damage or whatever. Now, I still have injuries. Like, I have like muscular injuries and stuff like that have caught up to me, and they're probably compounded from those accidents along with having a 10-year wrestling career. But yeah, it's one of those things, like, I look back and I'm like, the thing that I feel saved me in those situations was having a larger frame to work with. And I was always into weightlifting right from 15. So I really built a strong base, and a lot of the doctors agreed that that was really what prevented me from having injuries that would have crippled me for life in those situations. So I'm very thankful that I was able to stay safe in those situations and have a career and still do a lot of the things that I've wanted to do in my life.
Yeah, it's absolutely that's so admirable. Me, I got sideswiped by, I can't even remember what sideswiped me, but I ended up facing the wrong way on the highway with a semi-truck coming towards me. I'm thinking, oh God, oh God, oh God. And the last thing I remember doing is getting out of the passenger seat because they wouldn't have been able to get me out on the driver's side, and getting into the passenger seat so they could take me out easily. I didn't think there was anything wrong after. It turns out permanent damage to my L5. So, yeah, but absolutely admirable. James.
Yes. You refereed at the beginning of your career, like a lot of other wrestlers do. What are some of the things you learned about being the dope person in the ring that really helped you in your actual wrestling career?
You know what? I learned, about placement. You learn about like how to listen to the people. You learn how to communicate with the other people in the ring a little bit easier as well. And of course you get to see everyone's move set and sequences, and it's like watching wrestling like tapes but live, and you're right there and part of it. I would say though, it's funny, like I learned a lot then, but I think I actually did a ref seminar years later after I became a wrestler with a gentleman called Steve Hooper and Kevin Jeffries. And, it's one of those things a lot of people think like, well, I'm a wrestler, why do I need to go to a ref seminar? But it's in when you get a really good referee, it teaches you so much, and how you realize how important like a ref is in part of those matches. And I remember having to ref a three-way because we were on a tour and we were all taking turns having singles matches with the girls, and the other girl would ref. And I was like, I took everything from that seminar, and I was like, I really want to apply everything that they taught me. And it made such a difference for the wrestlers, and even for myself. I enjoyed the experience much more. The fans, I didn't take away heat from the workers. I was visible when I needed to be visible, but I wasn't taking away from anything that was happening in the match. And yeah, I mean, it teaches you about a lot of the things that you should know as a wrestler. I think everybody should work. You should work in production. You should work in Guerrilla. You should try to learn as many parts of the show as you can, so that it really helps you understand your place on the show, your place on the card, how to communicate to your peers or colleagues, so that the whole experience for both the fans and the workers are it's exciting, it's easy, and it's smooth. So yeah, no, reffing was a lot of fun. I sometimes miss doing it.
No, you're absolutely right, because it's something that maybe some wrestlers don't realize, and some things as fans is not maybe as appreciated as it should be.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, Scooter, you have a question.
Yes. Now, you've had quite a few notable tag team matches in your career, but I want to talk about one in particular right now.
Okay.
And there was an FSW event, one of your few matches stateside. It's you and, if I'm mispronouncing this, I'm sorry, Kikyo against Shelly Martinez and Kimura, and the referee is a chicken?
Yeah,
and it wasn't Halloween, this was June.
Yeah, this was right after the Cauliflower Alley Club reunion. Yeah, like, did you have any specific questions about that?
Oh God, because the comment there's live commentary going on, which and some of it's a little little bit even more than outrated for us. But I think it's the idea of a referee in a chicken suit.
Yeah, there's a lot of dynamics in that show. I mean, I think one of the referees was Donald Trump. There was an Annie. The main event was, what was it called? What was his name? Was Adolf Hitler and the Rainbow Reich versus the Ghost of Macho Man.
Oh my God.
Jake the Snake Roberts and Funny Bone.
Oh my God. And being Jewish, I don't know what to think about that.
You know what? It's a gimmick that he does in Vegas for Freak Show. I don't even know if he does it anymore. But it's super because it's trying to make light of obviously not such a great situation. But the fans there like love it because it's like if you get a chance to watch that match, you'll see what I mean. But it's just he's all about kind of pushing boundaries. Like he had like Jesus versus Santa Claus at one time, I believe, as well. So I mean, the thing with our match was the Shelly Martinez and Kimura. I don't know if they really had like a theme for their tag team, but me and Kikyo, so we were called the Legion of Womb.
Oh my God, that's awesome!
Instead of what a rush, we were saying what a gush.
Oh my God!
And there's many girls that have filled that. So the Legion of Womb is kind of like the name of a team, but the girls are like switched out. So different girls at different times have been a part of that group. So I was honored to be a part of it at least once in my life.
So female moondogs are.
Yeah, like, but me and I don't know. I love Kikyo. She's awesome. She's a sweetheart. She's super talented, and she's like one of my favorite people. So, and I think that was the first year we met, and we just clicked right away. We both had blue hair, and then I found out we were tagging, and I was like, this is going to be amazing. So it was a good time. I'm glad I got to do that for sure.
Well, Freak Show is actually right up my alley. Me being in New York City, born and bred, spent a number of years with the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which means that I ran around a theater in fishnets and high heels for 3 years. So yeah, absolutely, that is hysterical. Love it, James.
Well, maybe as memorable of a tag team partner, Jim Neidhart.
Oh yeah, I remember that match vividly.
What can you tell us about teaming with, obviously a legend in pro wrestling? I'm imagining an even bigger legend in Canada as well.
Yeah, I was so the original matchup actually was it was supposed to be me and Brian Cage, and because they hadn't brought Jim on board yet, and then they did sign Jim and Brian Cage, and I believe like a four-way tag later on with some cruiserweights like Samurai Del Sol and stuff. But when they told me I was tagging with Jim, I was like super excited because it's at the Calgary Pavilion where Stampede ran all the time, and you've got one of the Stampede Originals, like for the Heart Foundation and stuff, like there in that venue. So it was a really cool experience because I was only I think 11 months into my career at this point. So it's really exciting to wrestle in a venue that historical with a legend that I watched a lot of, and coming out through like the back into that venue with like a sold out, I think it was 1,800 people. It was amazing. And it was me and Jim Neidhart with Johnny Devine and Miss Dania, and it was I don't know if you're familiar with Australian Suicide from Mexico.
I think someone mentioned them recently, James.
Yeah, I think he just debuted for AAA or something. Or no, he debuted for AAA a long time ago. I think it was somebody else he recently debuted for. But he was known as Matthew Broderick at the time because him and Kellyanne Salter they were from Australia, so they were up training with Teddy Hart at the time, and we're going down to Mexico to train there. And he ended up staying down there, and he's had a really successful career in Mexico. So, I mean, it was three-way tag, and that was where I debuted my bridging sharpshooter for the first time as well. And the one thing that I remember vividly too was like, and I've honestly never done this since. I was in my bridging sharpshooter, and Suicide came off the top and did a double stomp to my stomach upside down. I know it was fine. I just again in hindsight, I'm like, man, this could have gone so wrong. But it was such a cool spot, and I was so happy that we did it. And me and Jim had the finish as well, and it was just a cool experience. And I have pictures of it. I have video of me coming out. And it's such a super card. That card was stacked with so many big names, and it was a big networking opportunity for me too. So it was a good day.
Just a little tidbit here. Australian Suicide, as El Australiano, actually wrestled two guys I started with on AEW Dark, Alex Reynolds and John Silver, at the beginning of 2021.
Oh, nice.
So, just to go back to that, it feels like you really took in that moment. Would I be wrong?
Oh, it was crazy. Yeah, I remember just I lost my character for a brief moment walking out from the back through the curtain. I just took it in in a moment of I'm a fan. You know what I mean? It was I forgot that I was wrestling for a quick moment.
That's awesome.
And it was really exciting because I mean you're there with so many big names watching, some Hart family members that are there, and then it's you get to tag with. I mean, not very many people in this area from my generation got to work with a guy like from that generation and on that status. So I was really happy that I have a moment with him like that, because you won't, unfortunately, with his passing, you don't get to see them very often. So
right. All right, Scooter, you have a question.
Yes. Tell us about singing with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra and performing in Europe. And was singing ever a possible career alternative?
Yeah, I mean, singing was just something I always did as a kid, and my parents never put me in anything formal, but I was kind of naturally gifted in that sense. And that's the thing, when you're young, everybody tells you oh, you're amazing, you're so good, so you kind of build a bit of an ego. And when I got to high school, my choir teacher, I thought I would for sure make these groups, and I was so good. And when he didn't pick anyone from our grade, I was like, this doesn't make any sense, right? And so I went to choir, and I remember him giving me an 86 in choir on my first semester. And I was like, can I ask what I could have done to got 100? He's like, well, what do you think you could have done? He's like, no one gets 100 in my class just because you showed up. And it was a big eye-opener. He really made you work for everything. So he always did a lot of big projects. So we got to do, we did there was a Lord of the Rings tour that they were doing. So we sang the live soundtrack for the first movie at the MTS Center in Winnipeg.
Oh, that's
wow.
awesome.
Yeah. And now for those really big projects, you had to try out. And he always picked me, but he was never one to give a compliment. So I always worked so hard to try to be better. He really made me grow as a singer and a performer. And I actually still stay in touch with my choir teacher to this day as much as I can, because he really helped shape me into a hardworking person, and I credit him a lot to that. He actually wrote, he was commissioned to write a piece for the opening of the Peace and Justice Center at the University of Manitoba.
Oh.
And it was basically he used the Holocaust as an inspiration to write the piece.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So when we performed it, we had like a small piece of the orchestra performing it with us, and there was a lot of really good reviews. So he decided to keep the project going. So I had 2 more years of school. We wrote one. The one that really connected with people was the one called The Children, and it was basically from the children's point of view during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And what we didn't know was the day that we performed that, there was a local business owner who was a Holocaust survivor in the audience.
Oh.
So he didn't know what he was going to. He was asked because somebody else had canceled on this other gentleman, and he was asked to fill in because he had an extra ticket. And he came to the school after and said, I didn't know what I was going to. The conductor explained the story, and he was like, I remember feeling kind of caught off guard, kind of upset, kind of excited to hear, how was this person going to capture anything of what I would have experienced? And at the end of the show, he's like, I wanted to thank him, but I got so emotional, I walked towards him and then walked straight out the door. And he actually ended up funding the remainder of that project, or helping to fund it. So, and he played a big role in getting other survivors in Winnipeg involved in it. So we got to do 2 more years where we built up this large project. It was called the I Believe Project. There is actually still a website about it. And so we did a world premiere at one of the local churches, and we filmed it with CBC Radio, and we recorded an album. And we had about a 300-person choir. He flew in 4 gentlemen from Austria, and we had a kids choir involved to play the children. And it was one of those projects. Like, I got to go to Europe and sing with that choir and stuff, and go and be a part of like really big projects. But that one just was so important to me. It still plays a big role in my life. I try to stay. I mean, I sing the songs to this day. It's been such a long time, but it really was something that I'm so fortunate that I got to be a part of, and a big part of who I became as an adult too. And I think it's really exciting to share that with the world. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, but I think we have a first here, James. I have been brought to tears.
Oh, wow.
Good tears. Good tears.
And it really is just incredible. That's an incredible story, and thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, no problem, guys.
Okay. And I do think that that's a great segue into the colossal question. They're making a movie about you, and every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on Kat Von Heez wrestling soundtrack up to this point?
Oh, that's tough. Oh, man. That's a tough question. I'm trying to think of songs that kind of identify with me. First song, I definitely would have. I'm trying to think of like a Rammstein song, but like the beginning of my career started with a lot of like, not rage, but just determination and anger and like so I was very into like coming out very intimidated and like intimidating, I should say, and stuff. So I mean, not like Du Hast or something, but
Yeah.
like something along those lines. Like any Rammstein song would fit because it's very much. I would say like the one Zona because that ties into my bodybuilding bit as well. That was one of the first songs I did my routine to. And then my next one would probably be What the Water Gave Me. Now it's a Florence and the Machine song, but I use a metal song. And I'm trying to think. This is a really tough question. I like just like I'm trying to think of a good song. I don't know if I have a third one off the top of my head, but I mean, I like to think there's something bubbly, but I've always been a pretty, like, brutish kind of person and a pretty, like, closed-off person, both in, like, I talk and stuff, but I'm pretty aggressive with everything that I do. So most of the songs that would be on there would be, like, rock or, like, something like that, but I might have to get back to you on the third one. I might just send you a clip and you can, like, throw it in there.
That's fair enough. Now, obviously this is going to be a big blockbuster movie. Who's going to play you? And you can't say yourself, because you have to make a Stan Lee cameo, obviously.
No, do we have to, like, you mean, like, celebrity?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a tough one. You know, like, looks-wise, I would say Denise Richards, because I get compared to her all the time, but I don't think she would, like, in body-wise and, like, match me. I'm trying to think of a good actress. You know, I'm blanking on her name right now, but she's a really funny one that played in, like, Pitch Perfect, like, the bigger girl.
Rebel Wilson.
Yeah, like her. I would love her, because, I mean, I think she could come across really, like, brutish and stuff, but, like, kind of add that, like, I have a quirky personality and like to have a good time. So she strikes me as someone that she could definitely play me pretty good.
And obviously there will be a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people that would definitely be in your movie, and who would play them?
Like, you want to know which wrestlers I would pick, and then who I would pick to play them?
Yes. Well, they don't have to be wrestlers per se, but three people that would be in the supporting cast.
Well, I would probably start with like my first trainer. So I would say Mentolo would be like, because I mean that was where I started. So it'd be like, if you're gonna start the movie with like the life story of me, that would have to be a part of it. Who would play him? I mean, I would love for Will Smith to be in my movie. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if he would like get the wrestler aspect, but I think that would be. I think he's willing to take on the challenges of that role, because Mentolo's a lot to live up to. He's a high flyer, so. But I have confidence that Will Smith could do it.
Well, the way he stopped Chris Rock, I feel like he does get the wrestler mentality.
Maybe Chris Rock would be a good alternative too. What's the guy that Michael B. Jordan?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, he would. Yeah, maybe he would be better because he's in that younger category. He could definitely move better. And then my husband would definitely be it. Like, for sure, he's been there since the beginning of my career, and obviously we're still together now. So Bobby Sharp, but you know what? Actually, this guy's too old now to play him, but I'm gonna pretend that he's younger. But the actor who played the bad guy in Kindergarten Kid, looks just like my husband.
I believe it or not, I actually know that actor's name. The actor's name is Richard Tyson.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, he looks just like my husband. So like a younger version of him, If it couldn't be,
We're getting the CGI out to make him look young.
yeah,
We'll Uncanny Valley him.
there you go. And then I'd have to pick a girl. Oh, that's tough because there's like Sexy Samantha was definitely someone that was a big like chunk of my career. Bambi Hall was, and the other one was like Gisele Shaw that I like really identified with. We had a long feud with, so I mean it's tough because any one of those girls would fit. But I think like if we're gonna go kind of like timeline wise, like Mentolo would be the guy at the beginning. Wrestling wise, my husband would be kind of middle, and like Giselle was like the last long feud. I've had girls recently, but I had more matches with Giselle, and it was more like of a long feud. And we did tag matches, and we went all over Western Canada together. That's a tough one because she could just play herself because she's like extra all the time, but in all of the right ways. And she was also a part of my wedding, so it would tie into like my personal life as well as my wrestling life. So I guess those three would definitely be like the three I would put, but there'd be so many other people I'd have to put in there because like Vance Nevada, I'd have to have a Vance. But there's like no one else I can think of that plays Vance as good as Vance.
I don't know. And I think we could accept Gisele Shaw playing Gisele Shaw because she'd probably just be offended if anybody else played her.
Yeah, she's got her own character. I can't think of anybody that would play her better.
Alright. Scooter, you have a question.
Now you've mentioned you have the great privilege of working with your significant other, your husband, Bobby Sharp. I love a great love story. Tell us about him proposing on Christmas Eve.
Okay. I just remember like being, I'm the type of girl that like likes to be surprised. And not that he wasn't, like I know he like thought he was, but it was like 8:30 p.m. on Christmas Eve. Like nothing's open. Like there's nothing you can do. And there's nowhere you can go that makes sense unless like we were like crazy people that just randomly went skiing somewhere, but that's not us at all. So it was 8:30 p.m. He's like, hey, do you want to go for a drive or like something? We could take the dog. And I was like, he's like, in my head, I'm like, he's proposing today. Like, I just like, I like kind of like let myself, like I ruined the surprise for myself. And then we drove to this park in Sherwood Park where he grew up. It was pretty dark out. He had the plan to go to the top of this like hill where there's like a light there, but like there was too many kids tobogganing off of it. So it was in a playground near one of those like monkey bar domes. And then he had tied the dog to like I think that, and then proposed in the pea gravel. It's a love story for the ages, I tell you.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, my dad proposed to my mom in a pizza parlor. They broke up, got back together, and he threw the ring back at her. And he's like, I guess we're back together. So it's more romantic than my parents ever got. So.
Oh my god, that sounds like one of my 3 proposals.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Piggybacking off of that, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of having your significant other in the same profession as yourself?
I mean, you always have support. Like, you always have someone typically to go to. They also understand the business. I mean, like, fortunately, he's got 9+ years in the business longer than me. So he's someone I can go to for, like, advice, and, like, he's been there, done that. Because a lot of times, too, like, if you're dating someone who's not in the business, they just they see it from a different perspective. They don't understand like the politics and the behind the scenes thing. So the drama, they're just like, well, just don't engage in the drama. And you're like, it's not that simple. I have to go into the drama. Like, it's a locker room. I'm gonna have to go into it to deal with it. So having someone that kind of understands that, someone you can kind of go to vent where like they can help you think objectively of how to like approach a situation, also have context. And I mean, like, let's be honest. I mean, when you can get paid to beat the crap out of your spouse, it's a great day. It's a great day. You know, not very many couples get to put their spouses through tables and hit them in the face with belts and all sorts of stuff and make it through the end of the relationship okay. So it's good. I mean, I think and this can be seen as a positive or a negative. I mean, when you're a couple, you're like, the positive is typically we go everywhere together. So like, it helps you kind of network a little bit sometimes because you can kind of go with them and they introduce you, especially at the beginning. It was a little bit, but at the same time, like, sometimes we would try to like, you know, hey, like, we want to be separated. Like, we want to, like, he's Bobby Sharp, I'm Kat Von Heez. We're not a couple. Like, we're just separate people on the wrestling show.
Right.
But I don't know. It would usually only take 2 or 3 shows before we'd be back in the tag team or some sort of angle. I'd be like, oh, you know what? You're going to go run in and you're going to save the day. And you're like, okay. You know, you're like, we got to day 4. We got to day 4, everybody, before they put us back together. So it's like, it's fun, but at the same time, like, that's why it was nice that, like, when it went from just being like tag partners or like managing situations. And that was kind of like, I don't want to always, we both said that to each other. We didn't always want to be in those situations, especially early in the career. But once they turned us into like where like intergender wrestling was accepted, and especially because there wasn't a lot of girls in places like Manitoba or Saskatchewan, and they said, hey, what about you guys feuding? And I was like, we both were like, oh, this could be really, we'll see how people react to it. This could either be really good or it might be something that people don't want to see. But like, we built some pretty strong storylines started in Saskatchewan, and it ended with a husband and wife hair versus hair match.
Oh man.
And as far as I know, I could be wrong about this, but I believe we had confirmation from PWI that in the history of wrestling, that's the only legitimate husband and wife hair versus hair match ever. There's been like boyfriend and girlfriend or like on TV relationship hair versus hair, but never an actual legitimate husband and wife. And my parents got involved as well as my grandmother.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he stole my grandmother's chair without telling her. And
Granny.
yeah, like, and the thing is, I didn't tell her to do anything. Like, we didn't get it. Like, we didn't smart her up to anything. So she could have just like gotten up and like been like, okay. But no, like, he took her chair and she hit him with her purse a couple times. And I was like, this is forever on the internet. This will be on the internet forever. And I'm so happy that this will be there. And then he took out the ref and he went to go get the clippers. After he did the 3 count himself, and he walked past my dad, and my dad ripped the clippers out of his hand. And like, my dad's a scary looking man, but like in that moment, he was not scary looking. I was like, Dad, just pretend like I didn't do the dishes. Like, look angry. Like, you know, like, where's the face? And it was cool to just have them all involved in that moment. But like, that match was really fun. We beat the crap out of each other. I tore my glute in that match, actually, within the first 30 seconds. It still has scar tissue to this day. It's a good time. And it was just hitting the wrong place on the turnbuckle, but it just sucked. But we got through, I think, a 20-some-odd minute match together there. And then we had a feud in Alberta shortly after that. The second last match was him in drag as Lola. And you know what? He looked pretty darn good as a girl. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah.
He looked like a very jacked woman, but he pulled it off.
It takes a real man to wear a dress.
He actually had like solid wrestling gear too. Like it was like solid effort. It was. I'm pretty sure it was a figure skating outfit at one point.
Oh, man.
But yeah, people like, because nobody really knew like it was going to be that situation. So when he came out of the curtain in the wig and everything, for a brief moment, the fans actually thought it was another girl. And then once he got closer to the audience, the whole audience just kind of like burst into laughter. And he was really flirtatious with the ref and like took it up a couple levels.
Was he clean shaven, or did he have like the 5 o'clock shadow for added comedic effect?
Oh no, he was clean shaven. He was like drag queen level. Like he was trying to RuPaul it, you know. He wanted this to be done right. If we're gonna do this, we're gonna go all out. But I remember ripping his wig off in the match, and he had like this is when he had cut his hair short, and he had like predominantly blonde going on at the time. So when I ripped the wig off, he kind of looked like Heath Ledger after he blew up the hospital in Batman.
Oh my god!
Yeah, he looked just like him. I was like, oh, this is a look. But no, we've had some really like long feuds, and like we've recently been tagging together, and we actually had a match against each other. We had 3 matches against each other in Strathcona, and then one a couple weeks after that in Innisfell. So we're right back to beating the crap out of each other. So.
But of course, every time that he beats you, he clearly has to make it up for you by like, I don't know, taking you to see the Backstreet Boys for the first time.
Yeah, that was for both of us. He loved it just as much as I did. I took him to Aqua, so we're even.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
That's my mid to teenage years,
right?
In a nutshell.
Awesome. And she hasn't aged at all.
Oh god. Lynn Nordstrom, I believe. Oh
wow.
Man.
Now the hair to hair match. Did the promoter ever like rip you and say like, you're not winning this match, we're cutting the hair?
He lost the match.
Right.
And I cut it off right in front. I broke the clippers cutting his hair off. And it was like a mutual thing. Like I think it was where we wanted to go with the feud. The promoter really didn't have like he was like discussing it with all of us and stuff, but like it was obviously when you're working with like indie talent, you can't just expect someone to cut their hair off, especially with if they don't want to, because a lot of people identify with their hair or like a part of their it's part of their identity. Yep. So no, I think it was kind of like, you know, he agreed that he needed a change in his look and wanted to go a different direction at the time, and the promoter was like all for it, and we wanted to like build it to it. We didn't want to just like do it one off. Like we wanted to build like 6 to 8 months worth of stories up until that point, and yeah, it was we did it really well, and then we had a little bit more of a feud where we ended it with a TLC match.
Because I gotta say, you have fantastic hair.
Yeah.
And just, you know, to cut it off in a match.
Yeah, you'd have to pay me a lot of money. Yeah. I don't think I just willingly cut it off.
Yeah, and as someone who has not cut their hair in 5 years, and I have my reasons, but yeah, it's the same thing with me. You know, it would probably take a hair versus hair match for me to actually want to get a haircut at this point.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And you would just cut off 3 inches. That's it. No more. That's it. You know. Yeah, I remember I broke the clipper within seconds. Like there's footage of it, and like I'm like going in there. I have no idea what I'm doing, and then the clippers break, and I take the really shitty scissors out of the box that come with the clippers. They're like tiny, and I'm just like hacking at his hair. You know, it actually didn't look too bad. He actually didn't get a haircut for like 2 weeks. after that. So he didn't look like appalling after my haircut. It just wasn't great.
Oh, Udo, you have a question.
Yes. Now, we know how health focused and nutrition focused you are, but being Canadian, where would you say is the best poutine?
Well, you definitely like Montreal. You have to go to Quebec because like that's where it originates. So they have so many options. But there's I don't know anyone in Edmonton to be honest, but in Winnipeg, there's a place. I don't even know if it still exists, but it was really big when I was living there. It was in like the Exchange District, which is where they have a lot of the indie bands. It's like an outside stage where you can kind of like just set your stuff up. But there was like it's called a poutineery, and like they had every kind of poutine, and like so if you ever went to like small concerts or like the pubs in the area, one of the biggest bars that like has a sketchy history, but it's like been around forever, is right by there too. So when like it's 2 a.m, you've just finished partying all night, you just like head over to the poutinery and grab one. And they had so many different options, and they use cheese curds. Like that's the important part of poutines. Like
they got to be squeaky.
Yeah, like you can't have like the shredded cheese. Like that's not an authentic poutine. I remember, oh man, my cousin was always a really big boy, and his poutine was like his go-to at any fast food restaurant. Like he had to have a poutine, and I remember he. Like my aunt and he took my like 2 cousins with me to they moved to California, and he went to a Burger King and asked for a poutine, and they're like, we don't know what that is, and he was so upset, like he was so distraught that he like couldn't get his poutine. I just remember him being so choked about it. It was like life altering moment for him. Like just, what do you mean you don't know what a poutine is? It's literally fries, gravy, and cheese. Like it's not hard. Like. But no one had heard of it at the time. So yeah, it's a big staple for Canadians. You have to like love poutines.
So it was a poutine routine for him.
Absolutely, that man loved poutines. Yeah.
All right. Quick one here: He-Man or Skeletor?
He-Man.
All right, and. Finally, my question reserved specifically for our Canadian guests: is Ryan Reynolds truly Canada's greatest national treasure? And if not, who is?
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. Because I love Ryan Reynolds. Like, I genuinely do.
Oh, we all do.
But, I don't know, Jim Carrey.
Ooh.
I mean, I love Jim Carrey, like, so much. But that's the thing, like, I would say, like, Jim Carrey was, and Ryan Reynolds is now. You know what I mean? Because like Jim Carrey's essentially retired. He's openly just said that there has to be some huge role that would offer him something to, that would fulfill him in some way to come back and do any more movies. So he's essentially retired. So I would say like maybe Jim Carrey was, and Ryan Reynolds is, because I love them both so much.
Well, you think you're one of the first Canadian guests to not say Wayne Gretzky.
I'm not a huge hockey mark. I can't. I mean, if anything, like my uncle and I used to watch the Jets when I was a kid, but like really young kid. But that's about it, And then the Jets disappeared for however many years. But shockingly, I'm probably one of the few Canadians that isn't all about hockey. Like I don't even skate. I play field hockey, but that's more of a South American sport.
And,
we might have to take away your Canadian license right now.
Yeah.
And for any sports fans listening, we're talking about the Winnipeg Jets, not the New York Jets.
Yeah. Yes, that's important to distinguish.
Although some might say the New York Jets are still more terrible than the Winnipeg Jets. All right.
Now, maybe I read too much into this. Maybe I went way too into the rabbit hole. But are you an Archie Comics fan?
And what's comics fan?
Archie Comics.
I like Archie comics. I definitely like. My dad used to watch, read them all the time, so they were always in my house.
Okay, but not like a super fan or anything.
Not like I definitely had to watch Riverdale. Like that was like a big thing. I do enjoy them. I wouldn't say that I like follow them. I would just pick up whichever one was available and read the strips and stuff. And I mean, obviously, you know about the dynamic between like Betty and Veronica, and there's like Cheryl Blossom and stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't say like huge mega fan or anything. No.
Okay. That begs the question: Betty or Veronica?
I don't know. I think like I always identified more with like Betty because, contrary to like my brutish self, I was always like the goody two shoe. Especially in my early adult years, like I don't really like to get into like trouble. I was always like an A+ student. I was like we didn't come from like my parents don't come from money or anything like that. So like Betty was much more relatable to me. I mean Veronica's just like that wish you were kind of character, but I think I would go with Betty just because I like her. Like she was more relatable to me.
Alright. Scoodle, you have a question.
Yes. So, I have a nephew who is an exceptional bowler.
Oh boy.
Tell us about your time being a professional bowler.
I mean, like, I don't know what they do in the States. So, like, in Canada, 5-pin is much more prevalent than 10-pin. So I remember being like, I don't know if I was 4.5 or I was 5, because I think the season starts in September. And being that my birthday is in September, I think my mom asked me in the summer. But she was like, hey, like, she woke me up on a weekend and was like, hey, like, do you want to go bowling on the weekends? And I was like half asleep. I was like, yeah, that sounds good. Well, that turned into 15 years of my life. But I mean, like, the thing is, you know, as a kid, everyone's like, oh, Saturday morning cartoons. And I was like, I had Saturday morning bowling. I never got Saturday morning cartoons. Essentially, and then like when you get to be a little bit older and you're part of like the seniors group, you wrestle on Sunday. Bowl on Sundays. But I mean, as a kid, it's just like fun. Like you take it kind of seriously, but at the same time, it's still fun. But once you kind of get to that like 11, 12-year age group, you're just like, you have rivals. You like want to destroy them all. And then every other parent has like, or a kid has like, you know, in hockey, they've got like the hockey dads and the soccer moms and like, you know, the people that monitor their kids, like how they're doing. Well, I had a bowling dad, and bowling dads don't sound intimidating or scary, but mine was terrifying. And I'd have to come home and report my averages and my gains, and he would critique me and make me feel shitty if I didn't hit my average and stuff. But I mean, it got to the point where I went to nationals and provincials and stuff. You make teams, and there's bowling cheers. I mean, believe it or not, there's actual cheers for bowling. They give you a booklet when you make the national team, and you have to cheer while your teammates up there bowling. And it's just full of really crappy outfits, and like you have your own bowling balls and shoes. Like it's just the big nerd fest is essentially what it is. But I do remember there's one girl in, like, I went to elementary school all the way through high school with her, and I don't talk to her so much right now, but like I have spoken to her as an adult, like in my adult years, And I love her. She's a sweetheart. But I remember as a kid, like, I was always compared to her. Like, my parents were like, you should be more like Andrea Wozni. And I was like, oh, I hate Andrea Wozni. Like, just because if Andrea Wozni had a good game, if I didn't have a good game, my dad was like, what's wrong with you? So I just, my dad built this rival in someone that I went to school with. So anytime she tried out for a team, I'd try out for a team. And that's bowling was part of my the beginning of my competitive streak, but obviously it's not as aggressive as wrestling. So somewhere in my life I took a giant turn from throwing a ball at some wood pins to wanting to punch people. Yeah, so it was quite a swerve, but I mean a good swerve. But yeah.
Speaking of punching people in the face, you got to travel with Tito Santana.
Yep.
What was that like, and what do you learn in the car with one of the all-time greats?
He's super chill dude to tour with. He's awesome. I mean, he was we have a guy in Winnipeg, his name's Kevin Cannon. He has I think it's a gold Camaro. I think it's a Camaro. But it's a beautiful car, and he drove Tito around in that thing, and Tito was just he looked so cozy and he looked awesome in that car. And he was just I didn't get to wrestle him obviously, but he got to wrestle a lot of the guys locally, and they all had such a good time. He was so easy to work with, and he would just sit around and hang out with you guys. He drank with everybody and tell stories, and and even at that time, I can't remember how old he was. He had to have been in his late 40s, early 50s at that point. But he was so agile still. He was so athletic for that. No one expected him to be as agile and mobile as he was. But he was incredible to be on tour with, watching the ring live. Just truly one of the greats.
Oh.
All right.
That brings us to our next segment. Kat Von Heez, the Your Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the road and weird, crazy, and bizarre things like that happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Weird stuff that's happened?
Yes. A weird, crazy, bizarre road story.
Okay. Okay. I'm trying. There's just it's tough because after all the years, you have all these stories and they just start getting jumbled together. But it's probably got to be a death tour story. There's just I mean, I wouldn't say it's a road story, but it's just the Northern Tour in general. My first year, I had I was new. I had borrowed gear. I looked like a Power Ranger. It was Jushin Liger gear, and I had my own music. The music didn't play, so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go out, and I don't care if I have music. I'm just excited to be here. And as I'm about to I've made the decision to just go anyways. They put on Elvis, all shook up. So I look like a Power Ranger coming out to Elvis. And then on that same day, we were match 3. Match 1 goes out. And so me and Bambi Hall, Bambi at that point had maybe I think 30 matches in. So we were both really green. And the first match went out, they come back and they're like, hey guys, the ring post broke. You can't use the ropes.
Oh God.
Oh. So it just snapped. And it didn't snap in half, it just snapped so there was no tension anymore. So we go out there, we do the match, and the ref comes back. His name's Gump. That's obviously not his real name, but that's what everybody called him. And oh no, it wasn't Gump. I think it was Steven Styles. The ref comes back and he's like, hey guys, I don't know what you did. I don't know what you said, but Tony is pissed. He's probably going to go back here and give you guys a talking to, I just wanted to give you a heads up. So we're both new. We both are I don't know what to expect. I'm already ready to quit. I'm going to quit. I'm quitting. I'm done. He comes back, and Tony is really good at yelling at you without saying anything at all. So he's just like going off, and I'm sitting there, I'm like ready to cry because I have no idea what I did. I thought like things went well, and he was like, "That was a pretty good first match," and like he just went a total different direction. And he's just like, oh my god, he got me so good. And then following this story, so like the next year, keep in mind, so that ring post broke at 3 a.m. We found a welder on the reservation that fixed that post for us for the rest of the tour.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Year 2 comes up, and another ring post broke.
Oh, God.
And there's no bathroom, so it's me and Bambi on this tour again. So there's no there's no bathrooms like along like where you're going. Like you have to pee outside, right? And it's like -30, -40. It's like not a pleasant time.
Yeah.
And me and her are both like really young. Like we want to pee outside. Like we're still like, we don't want to be around the boys that way and stuff. So I remember we were like a few days in, and me and her were sitting in the back. And we had to pee so bad, and we were focused. Like we had like resting bitch face because we were trying to focus on not peeing our pants. And like the roads are bumpy, so it's just making it so much worse. And the guys get out, they go pee, and they're like, "You girls going?" We're like, "No, we're not." And then we keep going, and then I'm like, "I can't do this anymore. I can't do it." And so we stop the truck. We both get out. What I'm thinking is we're both doing what we need to do. I get back in the truck, and I'm like, all right, this happened. We're good. And she gets back in. I'm not paying attention. I think we get like 5 minutes into the drive. I look over, and she's still looking like angry face. And I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, I couldn't do it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she's still... And then eventually, like, she just couldn't anymore and finally went. But... like that's like the whole tour. Like there's always like there's something that comes up. Like the ring post broke. Tony drives into the ditch like an unbelievable amount of times. Like so you'll be driving at 2-3 in the morning and he drives into the ditch, and then you have to pull the ring out, and you got to like prop it under the wheels, and you've got to get the van unstuck. So I mean, that tour is full of, like, ring post breaking, getting stuck, like, all sorts of shenanigans. We ran into the Ice Road Truckers, and we filmed a segment with the Ice Road Truckers. One of them tried to pick me up and gave me his number.
Oh, God.
You know? So, like, after 7 years of doing those tours, like, there's just... I mean, like, we didn't, like, do that to Tony. Like, we didn't pants him or anything. I think we were all too young and too scared to do that to him. But, yeah, like, those are probably, like, some of the more bizarre ones that, like, you know, or, like, not bizarre, but, like, just, you think everything's going to go smooth and it never does. Like, it never, ever does. There's always something. There's, like, bloody handprints on the wall in buildings. You don't know where they came from.
Yeah,
that's how...
Yeah, it's wrestling. It's Canadian Northern Tour wrestling.
And
yeah.
That's how legends start. Some say she's still holding it in to this day.
Oh, yeah, essentially. Oh, my God. Man, that was good. That was... I'll never forget that story. But, yeah, like, we had some fun on those trips. But, yeah, I mean, like, if you can get through a Northern Tour and, like, go, I still want to do this. You know what I mean? Like... You're cut out to be you're cut out to be on the Canadian Indies.
Alright. Onto a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
Terrible. Don't do it. Pineapple's a fruit. Leave it off pizza. Doesn't belong there.
Well,
I love pineapple. I have nothing against pineapple, but it doesn't belong on pizza.
Yeah, I'm with you. I get it. What's your spirit Pokemon?
Oh. Oh, that's tough. I think I would have to... Probably like Arcanine.
Oh, Arcanine. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved him as a kid. That was like my favorite.
Weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview. Would you ever consider wrestling a Rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, Squirtle.
Not the country.
An actual Rock.
A Rock?
Yes.
I mean, I've done strongman. Does that count? I've kind of wrestled a stone.
Squirtle?
I count it.
I mean, it is a struggle. If you've ever picked up an Atlas stone and tried to get it on a platform,
Well, I mean,
things can happen.
she's from the same country as
Yes.
where this originated, so.
This is correct. For context, there's another wrestler from Canada named Psycho Mike that wrestled an actual Rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match, an Iron Man match that lasted for 2 weeks.
No, I know Psycho Mike, and I could definitely see him doing that 150%. Because he's an, I mean, I don't know, like to me, one of the most underrated talents ever. He's so good, and he's like, his character is unbelievable. Like he's got so much charisma, it's amazing, and I've never watched anything of his that I wasn't fully invested in watching.
You know, it's crazy. I've seen so many Psycho Mike matches at this point, but I don't think I've actually seen him wrestle an actual other wrestler.
I just remember watching him. I was like, I think it was for Destiny, or it might have been Global Force. I can't remember. I want to say it was Destiny though. And they played. He would hit a spot, and then like the sound, and he would have a moment you could tell in his headspace. But like the Moni Moni would play, and he would like start dancing, and have like a monologue playing in the back, like he was talking to in his head. And then the wrestler would start working up and start punching, and the music would cut off. And it was like so good, like so well timed, so entertaining. No one, like I can't think of anybody else that could pull that off so well. And it's like, I wish there was like more of him out there.
Oh, for sure. And it's definitely one interview that's definitely eluded us at this point.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, he's amazing. Like one of my favorite indies for sure.
Alright. We love Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for THUT? THUT.
HUT. No, I can't say that I do.
T is for terrible. H is for hell. U is for ugly. And G is for jail. Because a dog can't spell.
That's awesome.
And on a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
That's tough. Like I mean my career's been pretty aggressive in the last couple like years. And I like to do a couple more things, like go back to Mexico and go back stateside. I have to just renew my passport. I've just been kind of pushing that off, but and do a little bit more. But honestly, I think in 5 years, as maybe some people don't want to hear this, but I think motherhood is where I'll be for a while.
Okay.
I don't have any kids yet, but I think for me, like being the age that I'm at, it's a really important thing for me. It's something I think is an important part of my life that I haven't fulfilled yet, and I don't want to be like 40, 45 trying to have my first kid, because my body's not going to make it. So I always figure, I can come back to wrestling and do like tours or I can book shows or I can like promote a show or something or even ref for a while. But I think like 5 years from today, I hope to have, like I said, accomplished going back to Mexico, maybe going to Europe, do a few more things in the States, do one more tour in the Maritimes. But I'd hope by 5 years from now I have a kid or two at that point.
Oh, schedule Kat Von Heez for 5 years from today.
Don't tell Bobby this. I'm not sure he knows though. Yeah.
And what's a match people should go out of their way to see that shows off what Kat Von Heez is all about?
Like one that I've already done or one that I'm going to do?
No, one that you've already done. What's a match that shows off what you're all about?
Okay. I would say there's a couple. It's tough. So if it was a girl, I'd say even though it was a street fight, that's honestly, I love doing street fights, and I love being what I like about the streets is not so much the weapons, it's just the aggressiveness of it all and the build up to it. So it was me and Gisele in a street fight in Regina, December of 2016, I think, or 17 maybe. Fans voted it match of the year, actually. And so that one kind of encompasses the rough and tough, that part of me. And then I would say but outside of that, I would say actually me and Bobby and that hair versus hair match, because I mean really outside of that, it was just a wrestling match that that was really what encompasses me as a person. I got to be aggressive, I got to be athletic, I got to be technical, I got to do some high a little bit of off the rope stuff, and it kind of encompassed my character in its entirety. So I mean, if we're going male opponent, I would say Bobby and me in hair versus hair. But if we're gonna go girl and a match that I still identify with, which is that street fight, that would be the other one.
Can we find those matches on YouTube?
Yes.
Alright, well, I will find those matches, and I will put them in the description of the video below for on YouTube and Castbox for anybody that hasn't seen them, wants to re-see them after this interview.
Okay, perfect.
And since we're nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of the This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
Yes.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Oh, Chris Jericho.
Worst wrestler.
She's an indie girl, she's not around militia, hands down.
Okay. Your main event in WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who was your opponent?
Alita.
Okay. If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Edges.
Which one?
The Alter Bridge one. But I have a friend that worked on a cover from a female, that version.
Oh, interesting.
If you look up Metalingus, Vicky, I can't say her last name properly. You'll see it. She's from Toronto, but it's an awesome cover. I've always thought if Beth Phoenix could come out to that one day with Edge, that would just be amazing.
You know what's funny? I think we've had every single version of Edge's theme song set on the show, whether it's the Rob Zombie, the original, obviously that version as well.
Yeah, he's got some of the best choices for music for sure.
Oh, for sure. And that's kind of wishing you said Elvis Presley. Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is
something that should still be alive.
We also would have accepted is quite good on toast.
Yeah, there you go.
Squash, fruit or vegetable?
Vegetable.
It's a fruit.
It's a vegetable. It's like the tomato thing.
Yes.
Agree to disagree.
And now you're part of Squash Squad, and that means a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
New Japan wrestler Taichi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
Full ring gear.
Full coverage.
Full coverage.
Alright. And the main event, the last question, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
No, never.
And that is the correct answer. That will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for doing this with us, Kat.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys.
And once again, where can we find you on social media and merchandise?
So Kat Von Heez, on any social media platform. I don't have Twitter, so just Instagram, Facebook at the moment. And then for merchandise, right now I've never had my own shirt. I finally got my own shirt for the first time in 10 years. So everyone so far has just been pre-ordering and sending me messages on Instagram and Facebook in terms of which ones, and we do shipping and PayPal as well. And I will send promo pics as well that way, and we work out shipping costs and stuff that way. Just working on the website and getting to my t-shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees is in the near future, but for now, just DM me on my social media.
Alright, well, all of those links to all your social medias will be put in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox. You've been listening to her for an hour and a half. DM her and buy a damn shirt. And of course, when you do get a Pro Wrestling Tees store, I will update the video with that link as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And just for anybody that's interested, Kat does have a Twitter, but she literally has 0 tweets and is following.
I don't know how to tweet. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm too old for tweeting. Tweeting doesn't exist.
You consider yourself lucky. Don't go near it. Don't touch it.
There's just so much drama on Twitter.
Oh, you're not wrong about that.
It's not a tweeter.
Alright, if you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, both on YouTube and Castbox. Of course, this was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Fail One Coffee. Join us tomorrow as we interview Billy Tipton. You can follow the show at Wrestling with E, both on Twitter and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. And remember to support our sponsor Becca at CCW's Misery event as well. You can follow me at JamesJ993. You can follow Kaliko at I am Kaliko, and welcome to Harry Studio.
As always, you can find me with my stand-up comedy tour live from Camp Lejeune, or you can find me on Twitter at Scooter Dust. Find me, James, and Ryan Dust hosting the remix on YouTube, a premium audio companion experience for all your alternate commentary needs for WWE premium live events. Next time we come to you, November 5th with Crown Jewel, and then after that, Survivor Series. And of course, revel in my Twitch antics as I embark on my first ever Dungeons & Dragons campaign along with Rico Constantino Jr. and the rest of the Smoking Dragons clan. Twitch.tv/Smoking Dragons.
And you can actually see that later today. Alright, Kat, when I say wrestling wit, you say entertainment.
Okay.
For always special guest Kat Von Heez, Kaliko Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.